Hello, good evening. Looks like I've broken my own rules. There's me thinking I'm going to slow down, maybe even abandon my YouTube channel. But like everything, life goes on. And here I am at 10 past 10, I think it is. 10 past 10 at night on Tuesday night here in the Philippines. I was talking to a very good friend of mine in Israel this evening. Yes, an Israeli citizen. Very interesting guy. He's been following me since I first started doing these YouTube channels with Jane and myself. And he still follows me. And it's great to catch up with him again this evening. Had a long chat. Came about his planning himself to look at the possibility of coming here to the Philippines. He's doing probably the wise thing, and that is adding a few other destinations on the way. But the one thing we were talking about, he has this idea that maybe finding a younger person is his preference. And I agree, I'm not going to be the one that determines for him, for whatever reasons he chooses to make that his criteria. But he also pointed out, and I pointed out, that often finding somebody closer to your own age is maybe a better option for many of you, because there's a feeling that somebody who's had a bit more experience in life is also able to adapt better. It's no doubt that a young spring chicken would be great for one's ego and no doubt keep one on one's toes for a long time. But I think that also they would then start to wane a little bit. Sorry if your name's Wayne, but they may well decide that living the good life with an old man maybe isn't for them. And you might be a little bit broken-hearted if they decided to hit the road, Jack. Or you might have just decided that you can't keep up with her anymore. And that's fair comment. But somebody who's older, somebody who's maybe even been a widow, of course, has gone through life with a partner. They've experienced grief. They've experienced what they miss now that the grief is starting to subside. They're looking for somebody who's a companion, somebody who they feel they can live the rest of their lives in a little bit of harmony. As a companion, maybe more initially as almost like a live-in partner. There's not the great rush to the altar. There's not the great desire to build homes and bypass cars. They're more settled. They're happy enough in their own soul and in their own skin, I suppose, because they're not looking for a handsome man. Sure, there's a bit of chemistry involved, I'm sure, but for them it's more about durability and maybe just common connections. Obviously, they don't want a playboy. They don't want someone who isn't totally committed to her, but they are, in fact, probably a better deal, because at that point in their life, they also probably have this feeling that if they're lucky enough to find somebody who they can share their lives with, they're one of the lucky ones. Who's going to want me, they might say. They might say, oh, but I'm ugly. Who's ugly, you might say. Just because somebody isn't a Miss Universe, it doesn't mean that they're ugly. You know, there's something about a mature woman on your arm when you go out somewhere. Somebody who dresses well, carries themselves well, is what we might refer to as quite elegant. And I think you'll find that many Filipinas, when they just apply a little bit of the old lippy and makeup, just a minor amount. Not we're not talking uh, what do they call it? Um, Lambs dressed up as no, you know what I mean. In other words, they're not over the top. Just a little bit of subtle this and that. They come up and they look really good. They look mature. They look. Nobody spends 2 seconds looking at you with somebody who is more closer to your own age. And you probably have more in common. You will have a sense of humour, hopefully, together. You'll have the little spark here and there, and it will be a fun time for all. But also, you'll be able to share the moments of sadness that you may well feel in your life you want to share with somebody. And who better than your own partner? And of course, if she's had a bit of grief and sadness in her life, maybe the children have grown up and left home, and there's a feeling of emptiness that's there. And you will understand what that is because you've done the same. So, my thoughts go to the fact that looks aren't always the main thing for finding a good partner. We're not talking about taking on somebody who looks like an elephant man. We're talking about people with a lived in look. You know, they still look attractive, they still shine, they have these little things about themselves. And you often find it, you know, you can be walking around the street and you start talking to some old lady. It always sounds funny when I say that, I think, because I'm 77 next month. And but I often talk about old people as if I'm not one myself. But that just explains how we feel looking out of our own body as we get older. As many see, age is just a number. It really is, you know. I never thought that I would feel the way I do on my good days at 77. Is this how I thought I would feel? No way. I thought I would feel like I'm ready for the neckers yard by now. And maybe I am, but the point is that each day has got to be an attempt to make it better than yesterday, an attempt to find the happiness that's there. That sure, you know, you get days when you're down. That's inevitable. Life can't always be a bowl of red roses, or what do they call it, a bowl of cherries. But I think that we sometimes come to places like the Philippines. Obviously, there's a multitude of kaleidoscope of different people here, and I'm sure that there's some of you guys that come here and think, "Oh my God, look at this, look at that one. Whoa, why did I pick this one?" You rushed too soon, guys. You made the decision too soon. Take your time. You know, look for quality, not necessarily someone that matches one of your daughter's friends, because you know it won't last. And if it does, it's just a miracle. And miracles always take a little longer to find. So make sure that you find someone who's able to consider the idea seriously of looking after you till the end. You know, there's plenty of women out there that have nursed a sick husband right up to the moment they pass, with duty, commitment, love, and cherishing of her role in the relationship. It's just a case of you finding her. Maybe ask these people, if you find a widow, don't have to give her 100 questions. Just talk to her normally. Ask her about how life really was before you came along. Ask her how she felt the day he passed, the days leading up to his passing, how she felt, what she was doing, because it will help you to consider somebody who has that kind of empathy for another human being. And they are here. You just have to find them. We all make mistakes. And also, some of us make more than others. So try not to be one of them. And I hope that all of my videos that I do, that they somehow resonate. There's a little ding ding. Oh, I could feel that way. Well, that's the way I sort of feel. Oh, that gives me hope. That's what I want you to feel. Whether you're American, Canadian, Scottish, Irish, oh yes, Australian and New Zealander. Don't forget the Germans, the Swiss, the French, the Spanish and the Portuguese. I feel sorry for the Spanish and the Portuguese because I believe they haven't got any power at the moment. And they've given all their generators to Ukraine. I wonder if Ukraine will send somebody to fix them in return for a few Exocet missiles. Anyway, you have a great day. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And tune in again. Bye now.